Dear Greg, in response to your response. August 25, 2019 by Anna von Reitz. Ever since the days of Simon Magus, there have been those in the church and also those outside the church, who have viewed the whole Jesus story as a new scam, with miracles being a new kind of magic show. They saw and they see it, still today, as something that smooth operators could use to fleece the gullible. And script to suit themselves. The true God doesn't take any note of them and their presumptions. He doesn't act on their schedules. His thought processes and time scales are profoundly different. And he writes his own scripts. I can tell you that for sure, based on my first-hand experience. While they are scrabbling around trying to fulfill prophecy using human means and reasoning, he is pursuing his own way. Guess who is successful in the end? Let me tell you what is at work in terms of the Antichrist, who appears before the risen one. The Bilderbergers and the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission and the huge plethora of government council organizations and federal agencies, especially the military departments, agencies, and subcontractors, have contrived with the help of Christian communists to create and operate a worldwide military hegemony potentially able to enslave the entire planet for their benefit. And that is what they are bent on doing. I am not just speaking through my hat here. We have the actual records, public and private meeting notes, debates, legislation, treaties, witnesses, everything, including proof of how they have falsified documents, practiced identity theft and unconscionable contracting processes, promoted constructive fraud, conspiracy of various kinds, securities fraud, inland piracy, unlawful conversion, patent fraud, infringement of copyrights and trademarks, treasonous usurpation of government authority, gross breach of trusts, treaties, and commercial contracts, and on, but most especially, their promotion of monopoly interests and their rigging of commodity supplies, and now, their rigging of the weather via advanced, secret geoengineering. Greg, these people are criminals of the worst kind. Worse than any traditional mafia. Are you sure you want to be their poster boy? I mean, King of England is just a role, like playing Batman or the Joker, a matter of being a hereditary actor and putting on a big public magic show designed to fleece the gullible, and all resulting in the same objective which has been their object all along, to consolidate all apparent power in the hands of one man who will serve them and yet appear to be the independent leader of all nations, all religions, etc., 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 the Antichrist claiming to be Christ. Is that a role you cherish for yourself, Greg? If the Pope can't serve thanks to the exposure of the deep rot in the Church and the President of the United States won't serve thanks to the exposure of the deep state running the municipal United States government, well, then, we are back to merry old England, and the territorial government, that's what they call the Commonwealth these days, by the way, and still searching for some plausible storyline to carry out their master plan. So here comes Joseph Gregory Hallett with all the right ear markings and all the mystery school trappings and a plausible storyline, claiming the title of Christ. But wait a minute. Jesus never called himself Christ, did he? No. And he never married anyone that we know of, did he? No such thing is recorded in the scriptures, not even in the Apocrypha. So all this storyline about Jesus and Mary Magdalene getting it on and secretly having a child and Dan Brown blah 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 can really be traced to the Merovingian kings and claims they made, all without proof, to legitimize their own positions hundreds of years after Jesus lived and died. It's a strange parallel to what you are doing now, claiming a secret tryst out of wedlock as a basis for kingship via an earthly bloodline. And that in turn echoes the tryst out of wedlock between Mary and the true God. You can see where this is all going. Straight into the crapper. But we have, 1, no good reason to believe that Jesus had physical heirs, 2, no reason to think that bloodlines established by his siblings were exceptional, by his own declaration, 3, no reason to think that we receive our inheritance from Jesus in any physical sense or for any physical reason, rather, we inherit from the Holy Spirit and his teachings, or we do not, we obey his Father, or we do not. The only family Jesus had according to the scriptures was limited to his mother, father, and siblings, and he, himself, expanded his family to include all those who obey the will of his Father in heaven, indicating very clearly that that is the standard of kinship with him to be observed, not any physical bloodline. Even if it did exist. Jesus was a man on a mission, faithfully and lovingly enduring its requirements in obedience to the true God, his beloved Father in heaven. His mission, if possible, was to redeem the sons of Abraham. It was only because of their rejection and cruelty that the Gentiles got a seat at the table at all. Of course, this rejection had been foretold by the prophets, especially Isaiah and Jeremiah, but then, 10 of the 10 tribes were Baal worshippers on the side, and they controlled the Sanhedrin. So go figure, then as now. Those in power want to remain in power. They see no reason why they should give it up or give it back to the people they stole it from, just like the Sanhedrin refused to honor Jesus and accused him of necromancy for bringing Lazarus back from the dead. Any excuse to accuse, deny, defile, mischaracterize, or, alternatively, to promote you, so long as it justifies their continued hegemony, will do. So the choices for you, Greg, are to 1. Serve as their puppet anti-Christ, or 2. Be rejected, or 3. Play their game and disappoint them, which means you will be murdered. Just as foretold. It's all very tiresome for me. Like watching the replay of a football game you've seen 17 times already. It doesn't even have the charm of being a new set of lies. I am sorry to be so blunt, but if you were me, you would understand that I have been to this rodeo too many times before, and I am sick of it. Mankind must progress beyond this puerile state of selfish incompetence and delusion. Must. Now. A totally new understanding of self and of reality is needed, and along with that, new forms of self-governance and self-responsibility. Mankind has been stuck at the 2-year-old with a hammer stage for far too long, a circumstance and delay that has been caused by the self-interest, lust, lies, and criminality of a few old demons sitting on top of a Ponzi scheme based on idolatry and commodity rigging. Now they are trying to rig water as the controlling commodity. I have one thing to say to them: stop now, or the actual God will blow you all to kingdom come, with great precision, one by one. And to you, Greg, I have this to say: stop now, or you know what will happen to you. You are playing a game with the devil, and his only intention is to use you as a pawn and to play you as such. So far as I know, there hasn't been a rightful king of England for a very long time. Our mutual ancestor, William of Normandy, made sure of that and sounded the death knell of any actual monarchy in England almost 1,000 years ago. It's more than high time for everyone to accept that outcome and recognize the fact that all the kings and queens who have served since then, have served as regents for the popes, having no clear claim to control or rule anything but Commonwealth property. Even the rebellious Tudors succumbed. Trying to bamboozle people and institutions out of their natural property rights via semantic deceits and other criminal acts of fraud does not a valid Commonwealth make. Changing the names and administrative units of the former Commonwealth to the control of the territorial government doesn't change anything, either. As I said, changing the name of Horse Hui has no discernible effect upon it. It remains Horse Hui, first to last. Commonwealth government equals territorial government, and territorial government equals Commonwealth government. Please, everyone, get it through your heads: it doesn't matter to God what you call it. What matters is what it is. Period. Commercial feudalism will fail, just as its monarchist predecessors failed, and for the same reason, it is unnatural. Feudalism creates an unnatural matrix of controls and subjects mankind to those unnatural conditions. It deprives men of the rewards of their labors and the exercise of their free will. It promotes idolatry and blasphemy and criminality in the process of seeking to enslave one man to another, instead of accepting the fact that we are all fundamentally equal, all deserving of equal protection under the law, and all owed the opportunity to thrive and chart our own course in life. Self-governance is not merely an idea promoted by American founding fathers. It is a law of nature. And every single time we ignore the laws of nature put in place by our Creator, guess what happens, Greg? We fall on our noses. And fall and fall and fall and fall. Are you beginning to grasp why I am bored silly? We've got a little group of self-interested men who like this game because they get perks from it, and because of them and their infantile animal urges and general lack of common sense and decency, the entire rest of the world and the earth itself is made to suffer. Over and over and over and over and over and over. It's not just the eternal return of things, it's the eternal throw-up of things. Notice the results? Every single time, just like when you were a baby learning to walk, boom, boom, boom. The only difference is that we learned from our numerous tumbles onto our butts back then, and we have not learned the similar lessons provided by every exercise in governance by kings, queens, popes, corporations, or mystery schools electing a Christ. Feudalism of any kind, based on any rationale whatsoever, is unnatural and doomed to fail after a whole lot of misery because it is unnatural. So, we are back, again, to the dilemma of Samuel. Nothing has changed. The Israelites are demanding a king to rule over them, instead of accepting the fact that no man is king. It has been slightly over 12,000 years that this lesson has been ongoing. It's like being trapped in an algebra class with idiots who just can't get the concept of Cartesian coordinates. So over and over and over and over again, we all suffer through this whole turkey trot. Point A. Point B. Point C. You and I and everyone else on this planet has had that proven to them in so many ways over such an expanse of time that it defies imagination that we are all still sitting here struggling over this fact. Men are meant to rule themselves, and have a hard enough time even doing that much. We are meant to rule ourselves by conscious, logical, reasonable discernment of truth about ourselves and the world around us, but we can't do that when we are constantly lied to by entire organizations posing as churches and governments and universities in the literal business of lying to us for their own self-interest. What's a creator to do? Give up on a failed experiment? Conclude that this species is too stupid and too selfish to live? How to choose between the deluders and the deluded, when the deluders are deluded themselves. Yet despite all this, Jesus came here, willingly, suffered and died. William Cooper wrote, "Behold, a pale horse," in the same spirit. And here I am, banging you about the ears like a schoolboy, trying to bring your attention to the fact that feudalism, including corporate feudalism, doesn't work for known reasons, and the practice of external kingship doesn't work, even if you are the king. The true God, who is the only king, dwells within us. He has and needs no officers, no prelates, no priests. He doesn't play favorites and doesn't follow our instructions. Rather, he instructs us, if we will listen, in the wisdom of life and truth and the way we should go. And he hands us lessons and tests and observes what we do, the same way a loving parent challenges us with new tasks and new skills. We are failing the test about kings. We are stuck like ants in amber on an ancient Canaanite practice that didn't work then and still isn't working now. And we have no excuse for this idiocy, because we have fallen down on our butts more times than I can guess or remember. It's time for the whole world to find a new answer, and to realize that, as Jesus said thousands of years ago, the true God, our true King, is within us. We may get it right as we stagger forward, or we may get it wrong, but at least we'd be making some progress, not getting stuck doing the same old thing the same old way for the same old failed reasons, and yes, getting the same results: warfare, death, destruction, lies, theft, more power struggles, more fraud, more pieces of useless paper, and more treaties that aren't worth wind, much less the paper they are written on. How about this? 3 laws. Total. 1. Love the true God, the creator and giver of life and consciousness. 2. Love your neighbors and yourself. 3. Keep the peace and honor free will. And we will just toss out the millions, literally, millions of statutory laws and codes and regulations, and pay attention, finally, to the natural laws that our Creator established for us, instead. If everyone on this planet accepts and practices these 3 things, we can have our paradise on earth and eat ice cream, too, illuminated by peace and prosperity and an end to selfish idiocy. And we can all spend our time and money doing something more productive and positive than fighting and struggling to control external governments. I don't know about you, Greg, but I am ready to graduate to an entirely new world and new system of doing things, a new system of beliefs and values, a new system of self-governance, peace, plenty, and yes, joy. I have learned my lessons. I don't need to sit here and watch another round of the same algebra lesson unfolding.